Okay. The time right now is 11 o'clock. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Do I have Mr. Benjamin online?
He actually is
Mr.
online.
Benjamin.
Yes. Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you, please.
We can hear you.
Yes. My name is Moshood Lawal. I work with the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, and I want to formally welcome every one of you to this session, a webinar that we're going to look at cyber hygiene for your business. Is typically a free webinar for MSMEs on the latest cyber threats the attackers will likely use and what we'll need to do to protect our visibility online. It is a known factor right now that most small businesses are beginning to embrace digitization and digitalization. And most often than not, they need help in order to survive a lot of threats that normally comes either in stealing their presence or duplicating their identity. And fortunately for Smidan, we are partnering with a very renowned firm in order to give you today's webinar and let us discuss on issues of cyber security as it affects small businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are very privileged to have in our midst as our lead facilitator for this discussion, an information security consultant that's presently with one of the renowned IT cyber fair security experts, and he's also a security solution expert himself. And he has led so many discussions around IT solutions and digitalization as that to do with small businesses and securing their business. Ladies and gentlemen, today I present to you Mr. Benjamin Okoli. Let's tap our icon for wave of hand as our way of appreciating our lead facilitator who has volunteered to take us all through the session on cyber hygiene for our small business owners. You're welcome once again. This is organized in partnership with the Capacity Academy by the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria. I present to you Mr. Benjamin Okoli. Mr. Benjamin, you're welcome to today's session.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute honor to be here. Really excited to see.
Oh, we are privileged to hear your voice.
Just really excited
No,
for
we
our
are privileged to see
conversation.
your face. Oh, wow. We are also privileged to garner a lot from the experiences you will be sharing for our small business owners on how to protect their visibility online and some of the strategies we need to use in order to be visible but not open to attack. I will be handing over the microphone right now to Mr. Benjamin Okole to take us through the sessions. I will advise every other person that is listening in to please mute their microphone. That's one. Take notes of everything Mr. Benjamin Okole will be giving you right now, because the next session that I will be doing, I know is going to collect a lot of fees and usually charges in dollars. So we are privileged to have this free one for ourselves right now. And if you ask questions, just take note of the questions, because when he finishes, we will engage him in Q&A and a lot of discussions around the presentations and some of the fears we have. Mr. Benjamin Okoli, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate the introductions. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for making out the time to join us today for this rather engaging session that we're going to be having. We will try to keep it as interactive as possible. You know, there'll be points during the session where we're trying to get some feedback from the audience. Looking at our numbers, I think we can, in certain cases, maybe have a few people unmute their mics, share their opinions. And maybe if required, you could also just use the chat box as well, just so we keep it, interactive, free flowing. And yeah, at the end of the presentation, we have something special for the audience. So let's wait to see how that plays out. Okay. Just to confirm, can everyone see my screen? Just a show of hands will be fine. Or Mr. Moshood, could you confirm that you can see my screen? Can anyone confirm? Hello? Okay, perfect. Yeah, nice. Okay, so yeah, on behalf of Kaspersky and Small Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, I'd like to welcome you all to the Cyber Hygiene Workshop from the Kaspersky Academy. So a little bit about myself before we proceed. Pre-sales manager at Kaspersky, and we are a global leader in cybersecurity with extensive experience and a deep understanding of cybersecurity threat landscape. I do drive the Kaspersky pre-sales initiative within West Africa, offering strategic guidance and technical support to both the sales teams and our clients. So I do. I'm really keen on pushing the message of cybersecurity education. So actively engage in industry events, so try to share knowledge where possible alongside best practices. And I hold a bachelor's degree in computer science and a number of cybersecurity certifications in a bid to reinforce my commitment to making the digital world a safer place. So on here, outside of what you're seeing on screen with my video turned on, there's a small showing of myself as well. So you can see what I look like in a much clearer version. So now a little bit around Kaspersky. I think what you find is some people are familiar with Kaspersky as an antivirus provider, but this has changed over the years. We're not just an AV provider, but rather a global cybersecurity company. So we're one of the world's largest privately held cybersecurity company with threat intelligence experts active in every region. Um, our mission is quite simple. On screen, we have here our CEO, Eugene Kaspersky. And our mission is simple, building a safer world. And we do that by becoming the global leader in cybersecurity, by securing technologies. We ensure that it's safe, it stays free of cyber threats, providing nothing but positive possibilities for everyone. Let's bring on endless possibilities. Let's bring on a safer tomorrow. So a little bit around the company expertise. We have our unique team of security experts at the forefront of protecting people around the world from the most sophisticated and dangerous cyber threats. So our expertise enriches our state-of-the-art protection technologies, making the quality of our offerings unsurpassed. So we have over 5,000 highly qualified specialists, with 50% of the organization employees dedicated to research and development. This allows us to continue pushing out this state-of-the-art technologies that we're talking about. And over 35 members in our group, part of the Kaspersky great team. It's not a brag, but they are a great team. And it stands for it's an acronym for the Global Research and Analysis Team. So we have 35 plus members of this elite world leading security experts. A little showing of our customer reach with over 200,000 corporate clients worldwide and 1 billion devices protected to date. With multiple verticals we're spanning from the enterprise to industrial facilities to small and medium businesses, very small businesses, consumers. Our reach is quite large. We see the maybe like deeper dive into our customer reach. We see the wide range of industry sectors. We see how solutions and services are able to successfully protect over 200,000 clients around the world, regardless of the size, regardless of the complexity, be it public organizations, private companies, healthcare, education, telcos, manufacturing, where we have coverage everywhere. So, maybe a little bit of showing our role in the global IT security community as well. We generally participate in joint operations and cybercrime investigations with global IT security community, international organizations such as Interpol, working with AfriPol, law enforcement agencies, and CERTs worldwide. So on screen, we can see Interpol working with Coalition Against Stalkerware, Paris Call, Industrial Internet Consortium, and AfriPol. So it's a rather large coverage. Okay, so this will be our first engagement from the audience. And my question to the audience would be, how much money do you think an average small company loses from a single cyber attack? Please feel free to use the chat. Let me check the chat. Let's give some time for people to provide answers, just some rough estimates. Don't, a couple of millions, okay. Okay. Let's have some more feedback. But by the way, the couple of millions we're talking about, are you talking about Naira or USD? Just to, just to confirm the currency. From Emmanuel. Okay, USD. Okay, okay. Whole life savings. Okay, okay. Rather interesting numbers. I see. Zingdam, you said a lot, or depending on. Just give like a rough estimate. Say like if you were to give a starting number, where we'd say starting from here all the way to like billions of dollars. Okay. Well, these are, I guess, rather large numbers. We want to focus on the fact that we're talking about a small company, not like a large enterprise. So, with that in mind, maybe we want to review some of the numbers. It's a very political answer from Josephine, as she said, as much as is exposed to the threat. Want to have like a rough number, just like how many $1,000, how many $1,000,000, just give like a rough estimate. About 1 million yearly. Right. It's not impossible to lose about 1 million yearly, but what we want to focus on is the loss from a single attack. Who knows how many attacks could come within the year? We're just saying one attack to a small company. And the answer is like financial losses from a single cyber attack for small and medium-sized businesses can actually start from about $100,000. Important to note that this is a single cyber attack. So let's see, how many of you were close to the figures? Was this far away from your expectation? Was this well in line? Remember, we're looking at a single cyber attack, right? Not during the year. I guess maybe the feedback from Coyote would be the closest, saying we're looking at about 1 million yearly. If we have like say 5 to 10 cyber attacks in the year without proper protection, I guess we can be looking at these numbers technically. Okay, interesting. But yeah, I think we can all agree that these are rather large numbers. Let's look at some more interesting stats. So there was an Interpol-led operation. It's called Operation Red Card, and it resulted in the arrest of 130 individuals in Nigeria. So 306 individuals suspected of links to cyber crimes. There were 1,840 plus devices that were seized. It was around mobile banking, investment, and messaging scam. We've seen how Kaspersky also contributed to this operation Red Card. We contributed it's our threat intelligence data to Interpol, and law enforcement action was aimed to disrupt these criminal networks across the African region. So we're able to at least play our role in this operation, and it led to the arrest of a number of cyber criminals within Nigeria. And it was looking at about 130 people arrested, and it included about 113 foreign nationals, right? For their alleged involvement in cyber-enabled scams. So we're looking at like online casinos, investment frauds. So the suspects tried to convert the proceeds to digital assets in a bid to like conceal their tracks. And they were like recruited from different countries to run like these illegal schemes in as many languages as possible. But we're still able to provide or contribute from the point of intelligence to aid these arrests. Okay, so what are some of the key cyber threats facing Nigerian businesses today? Right up there, we are looking at ransomware attacks. There's every year we're seeing like an interesting rise in ransomware attacks. Maybe not as much this year, but we've generally been seeing the ransomware attack rise. We're also seeing phishing scams. I think there's a lot of leverage on the emotional state of things, right? And they take advantage of a lot of people. So, for example, we see cases of there was this interesting news that we saw the other day of like staff of an organization falling for a phishing scam, and the subject was around salary review. It was around salary increase, and the whole organization fell for it, including HR. So I was playing on emotions, the desperation of individuals, and we're seeing this rise and the key threats being faced by Nigerian businesses. So phishing scams, business email compromise, and even insider threats. There's again so many people trying to I guess escape the economic situation, right? And then they're trying so many things, and it's a bit difficult to even track what the activities of these insiders. So insider threats is definitely one of the key threats faced by Nigerian businesses. And then weak security for remote work. We're seeing the adoption of work from home. So many people are using so many unprotected devices to access company resources. People are using or accessing interesting links, using company issued laptops to visit interesting websites, no blocks, no protection, things of, some password stealing malware could be downloaded onto those systems. Who knows, right? So these are some of the key cyber threats that's facing Nigerian businesses. Now, how businesses lose money in cyber attacks is pretty much from two sides. The first side would be the direct losses, and then the hidden ones are the even more tricky ones, right? Because you can kind of, let's say, predict or manage the direct losses, but from the hidden losses side can be a bit more devastating, right? So on the direct losses side, we're seeing like things around legal fees and fines. We're seeing the need to notify the clients about the cyber attack, the incident investigation process, the protecting clients after the data breaches, the PR activities, and then the general cost that will come with then improving cybersecurity. But we also have to look at how these direct losses could also even cause some more hidden losses, such as reputation loss. Very difficult to build your brand right after that reputation loss. Increased insurance premiums, the downtime and disruptions, the brand devaluation, the lost profits during this period of the attack, and even further due to the reputation loss, and then this disclosure of trade secrets. All of these play a key role in the hidden losses that come from cyber attacks. So we can't just focus on the direct losses. We need to remember that there's also hidden losses, and these hidden losses can be a bit difficult to tie financial value to them. So maybe at face value, we're saying, yes, we've lost certain fines, we've paid a certain amount in fines. Those are easier to calculate, but you can't calculate. It's a bit too difficult to calculate the lost profits, the financial losses due to the reputation loss, uh, the downtime and disruptions, what was lost during that time, and even like things around the disclosure of trade secrets. So really interesting. And just to add, right, 64% of all cyber incidents in the past 2 years were caused by human errors. We've seen how these human errors can range from misconfiguration on one side, or someone incorrectly giving someone else access to certain things, passwords being left unattended to, and someone else just gaining access to it. The human error, the human factor is very key. And as we can see, the numbers suggest the same as well. 64% of all cyber incidents in the past 2 years caused by human errors. This is a rather large percentage, And the truth of the matter is, if leaders don't understand the importance of cybersecurity, the company will have losses. So there's the reason why we have the leadership clause in, for example, ISO 27001. And the idea is we want to push the message of management commitment, right? We need to ensure that we have the management buy-in. Everyone needs to understand the role that they have to play in security. And this is something interesting that you could take back. Now, cybersecurity is not something we want to look at as just an IT function. It's a bit half of the story. It's more of a technology function or an IT function plus a business function. And so management needs to see that security is actually not just here to play a role in IT, but to play a role in the general running of the business. So if our systems aren't correctly protected, we can directly or indirectly lose some revenue, have some reputation losses, as we've seen in the previous slides. So if our leaders don't understand this importance, the company will definitely have losses. So let's look a bit more around critical thinking. Very interesting story here that we have, and this is how there was a French lady that was duped out of 830,000 euros by AI Brad Pitt. um, she faced a lot of backlash for it, as almost as though, like, how people will take this kind of news. There's a lot general lack of empathy from humans in cases like this, right? So everyone's concern was around how would you fall for a trick like that? But it's not really as straightforward as that. It's important for us to know that these kind of tricks exist. And if we don't know they exist, we are more likely to fall for them. So the lady was able to share her the story about it. It's a bit sad one, but there's definitely lessons for us to learn. We even, during the whole scam, the lady even got reached out to by Brad Pitt's mom, in quotes, telling her how she's the perfect lady for Brad Pitt and all of that. Like, really high quality engineering done here. And we're able to scam someone out of 830,000 euros in a bid to pay for treatments and things like that. So a bit unfortunate, but this is the reality. This is the reality. So we need to always be aware that these kind of things exist. There's even things around like neural network written phishing mails, right? We need to know that they exist, and this would then help us be more attentive to details. So some of the things we want to focus on around these social engineering techniques is, let's not rush into decisions. So you'd see they'll generally try to rush you into decisions. Let's always try to take a step back, right? They'll try to pose as people you trust. Again, it's a bit more targeted. I don't know what it is, but it almost feels like there's this misconception that uh, the males are going to be overly obvious. And not necessarily. There's going to be like techniques that are less obvious. And then there's going to be some that are really obvious. You can see the grammatical errors. You can see it's fine. But in certain cases, it's going to be around posing as people you trust or posing as people in authority, trying to make you rush into a decision, create unrealistic timelines. For example, if it's coming from someone of authority, there could be cases where you'd try to rush, say, oh, my manager just gave me a deadline to send this confidential file in the next 2 hours, and you rush into that decision because this person is posing as someone you trust, and you've ended up giving way too much information to these adversaries, and then they're asking you for sensitive information. So we want to look out for these key pointers, and when looking out for them, we have to check the sources of the information. um, is this coming from an unidentified caller? Is this coming from an unfamiliar sender? Is this the suspicious is this a suspicious mail saying that it's coming from your boss? We want to pay very close attention to these things, and I do believe in always verifying, and I believe we should all. Even the other day, my I asked my brother to help me with something via the text message. He was supposed to send me something rather confidential, right? He had to call me first, and then whilst we were talking on the phone, he switched it to video call as well. Asked me to do certain things. Just wanted to confirm that, right, I was the act, and this is my brother. So it's important for us to, always pay really close attention to these things, and even things like unfamiliar flash drives. Let's be really careful here, right? There's something called the rubber ducky attack, and this is a situation where the flash drive will emulate the behavior of a keyboard. If you inject or connect these rubber duckies onto your systems, really interesting things can happen, right? So this will be things around pre-configured commands, right? It's because it's emulating the behavior of a keyboard now, it comes with pre-configured commands. So things like Windows R, CMD, launch PowerShell, execute some PowerShell script, start to retrieve saved credentials from the browsers, saved card information, saved passwords, things like that. So we want to be really careful. I don't know if anyone got the opportunity to see the Netflix show Kaleidoscope. And this was a really interesting show, right? Generally interesting, but it was also cool to note certain things. A rubber ducky was actually used at some point during the movie. A lot of people would also miss it. But the more interesting bit about it was used on an IT security firm. So you see, like, no one actually is immune to these things. So security firm was exposed to a rubber ducky, which I guess there's a number of controls you could use to protect yourself against like a rubber ducky attack. But you'd find that these threats are live, these threats are active, these risks exist. So we want to check again the source. This always check the source of the information that we're receiving. Now, let's go into password security for a bit, and I have an interesting question. Can anyone tell me what the issue is with this picture that we're seeing on screen? Let me just check the chat quickly and see. Just use the chat. Can anyone tell me the main issue around the picture we're seeing on screen? Our guys on the chat. Poor password management, password exposed, password on the PC. Correct. It's really interesting that this is an actual live case from a government official, actually, with the passwords exposed on the back of the laptop on a live broadcast. Very very sad. So it is important for us to not do this. A lot of people have the bad habits within the organization of always, I guess, putting their password somewhere because they don't want to forget it. And then they end up giving every other person the password, right? And you know how tricky it can be when the attackers, would gain access to these passwords. So there are some common techniques for obtaining a password from someone else's account. And some of these techniques actually include things like phishing and social engineering. We see things like data leaks. We're seeing credential stuffing via keyloggers. We're seeing spyware. We're seeing sniffing attack, man in the middle attack, brute force attack, and dictionaries. We can see these kind of attacks. So we have an interesting task for everyone here, and this is mainly around data leaks. Now, could you check, all right, scan this barcode, uh, visit this site, and provide your email address. Now, when you provide your email address, check if you have any of your data breached associated with your email address. Now, tell me what you found on the chat. If you found anything, let me know. If you didn't find anything, please let me know. So I'll just leave the slides up for a bit. Let's log on or scan the QR code and provide your email address, and let's see. We'll give you some time. Just to add, right? There's been a number of interesting data breaches in the past. Please carry on with the test, log in, provide feedback to us. Let's know if you don't have to tell us where exactly, but just tell us if there was nothing found or if you actually found something, right? You don't need to tell us what exactly was found. But there's been a number of interesting data breaches in the past, and you'd find that people's credentials, their email addresses and passwords have been compromised. And it's really interesting for us to validate that we don't actually have any of our information exposed online. And this is important because a lot of people tend to reuse passwords. Okay, for Moses, zero data breaches found. Right, perfect. So a lot of people tend to reuse passwords. And this is a problem, right? Because if you're using a password that has already been leaked, it's not the greatest of things. I think we can all agree. So that's always really important for us to see what is available out there with relation to us, right? So let's give some more time for the rest of the. Ooh, nine, nine breaches already. Okay, interesting. Interesting. Let's keep checking. Let's keep the numbers coming in. So yeah, for Josephine, scan the barcode on screen. It'll take you to a link. Have I been pwned? And then you could provide your email address on there and just search. So we're seeing a number of breaches: 9, 5, 8, 2. That just is not a good. It's not the greatest when we're looking at the data breaches, because when you say just 2, it almost seems like it's good enough, but it's still a problem, especially if you've reused any of those passwords associated with the breaches on some sites, like maybe your social media. Someone could actually gain access to that just by testing that password, if there's been any password reuse. So I think the key lesson for us, Shadimu, how many data breaches could you, I see, I can't really see a number there. But the key thing here is we want to be aware of what has been, I guess, leaked, how many breaches we have. Oh, one. Okay, one is something. And this would, I guess, inform us in how we make follow-up decisions, right? So, for example, changing passwords, ensuring that maybe we aren't reusing passwords, or we have a password manager that is helping us to manage some complex passwords this way, even if one is breached. we are fine on other platforms, right? Because these breaches could happen to anyone. Any organization of any size can be breached, and if they are breached well enough, your data can become exposed, your credentials can become exposed. So let's try to leave some variation, or at the very least, as much as possible, check to see if we've been pwned. It could be like our own small mini threat intelligence that we have in-house, just to ensure that we're covered as much as possible. Okay, so for those with good numbers, with zero, congrats. And but let's ensure that we keep it at zero. Well, we can't really do a lot in certain cases, but I guess the least we can do is to avoid accessing certain websites, right? If there's certain suspicious websites, let's not go in there and provide our email address and passwords that we use for other accounts, because these are very suspicious guys, so we don't want to do that. Ah, very nice. Zero breaches. Okay, great. So let's keep monitoring these sites. Provide your email address every now and then. Confirm that you haven't been breached. But if you have been, again, ensure that you aren't reusing any of those passwords on any of those sites. Yeah, yeah, you're correct, Mr. Emmanuel. This is true, and this is down back to the point where anyone can be breached, and this is why we want to maybe as much as possible avoid password reuse, just so that if one of the guys will be breached somewhere, the attackers can't or adversaries can't get access to those credentials and I guess try or test them somewhere else. I if I use the same password on my Twitter account and use the same password on my Instagram, if Instagram is breached, 11 breaches. I think that's our largest. Okay. No, so Toby, it's not always suspicious, right? Sometimes it's as simple as LinkedIn, even, right? So if you use the same password, someone could test those passwords on another social media account or another platform. And if it's the same password, they have access to your account. And this is not the best of things for us. So yeah, interesting exercise that we've carried out there. I guess it's helped us show a few things. First off, no one is immune to these breaches, org-wide and personnel-wide. But we can keep trying to make it more difficult for the adversary. So if there's a breach, you can't reuse my password. That breach is on Instagram. If Instagram is breached, for example, and credentials are leaked, and then an attacker is able to use those credentials to access, say, Twitter, it's not really on Twitter. Instagram played their role in it, but you also played your role by reusing those passwords. So we kind of want to be aware there as much as possible. Again, I can't stress this enough. Avoid password reuse and maybe leverage on a password manager. Now, speaking of that, what do we want to avoid in a password? Let's not use weak passwords. Let's not use things like password 1111, password 12. Let's not use that. Let's not do that. Let's also try to not replace symbols in an obvious way. So sometimes people think they're creative and then they do P at SSWORD. It's not creative, guys. You're still exposed. Don't use P at SSW0. That's the number RD, things like that. These are obvious replacements. Let's not do that. Let's also avoid using the same password for different websites and services. Again, similar to what we spoke about before, as we I guess don't want to again have cases where there's a breach on one platform and the attacker can just try to reuse those passwords on other accounts. So let's try to avoid using the same password for different websites or services. And also, let us not use hard to remember passwords. Now, if you don't have a password manager and you use hard to remember passwords, what it will lead to is the first slide that we saw where we talked about password security. And this was having to store this password somewhere. So you write it down and you keep it somewhere with the goal of using it, accessing it so you don't forget it. But in your mind, it's more complicated for the attacker to break almost like security through obscurity, because you've created a password and then put the password for everyone to see. So we don't want to do that. All right. Let's not do that unless you have a password manager. If you have a password manager, let's leverage on the password manager to help us store these rather complex passwords so we don't have to burden ourselves with remembering those passwords. Then let us also avoid using personal data. So things like your birthday, your own names, your names of someone close to you, names of your pets, names of. Let's not do that, right? Because again, a lot of these attacks can become rather personalized, and you'd find that they've done a lot of recon. The adversaries have done a lot of reconnaissance, and they do have a lot of information about you already, maybe based off of what has been exposed on social media and things like that, which we will again get to in future slides. But they can try to test certain passwords based off of what is available publicly around you. So let us not use those. Let's not use personal data when trying to create these passwords. So, some tips for creating a secure password. Let us try to make it at least 16 symbols, right? The longer the password, the better. Let's try to include some combo of upper and lower case letters, punctuation marks, like special characters. Let's make it a bit more complicated, right? And then let's insert special symbols at random. Like are just random places. You see and, you see a percentage, you see a dollar sign, you see open braces, square braces. Let's make it as random as possible, right? It's really complicated to break. And then we can also come up with some rather unusual word combinations. So, could someone tell me what this spells out to? It's a very random word combination, but you can kind of see it with your naked eye. If you look at it close enough, you can tell what the person is trying to write, but at the same time it's really difficult to guess why. It's a combination of like a rather unusual combination of words. It contains or follows those rules set up earlier with 16 symbols, with the combo of upper and lower case, with the punctuation marks, with special symbols in random places. And let me come back to the chat. Can someone tell me what that password on screen spells out? The last one. Strangers in the night. Perfect. Strangers in the night. But it's not really something that you can. If I told you that my password was strangers in the night and I gave you maybe like 3 years to guess the password, you probably wouldn't come up with this guy on screen, right? But yeah, strangers in the night. Absolutely correct. Very nice. Very nice. Perfect. Strangers in the night. Love that. Okay, now let's go to another interesting exercise from everyone. Let's again scan the QR code. Let's go to this very lovely website, password.kaspersky.com, and test a password, right? The goal here is to see if your password can be brute forced or found in a database of leaked passwords, which again attackers can leverage on. So we're not collecting or storing any of these passwords. This is just for your testing purposes. So test and give me your verdict. Let me know. So test and then you can share your results in the chat. Let me check. Yes, Usman. It will be difficult to memorize, but if you have a password manager, this could be very helpful here. So you could still have that complicated password, but then just leverage on the password manager, so it's easier for you to pull the password anytime you need. Let me know when we've scanned the site or the barcode, access the site, and we've been able to come up with any interesting passwords. And let's share the results. Giving some time. I think I should also try it for myself. Let me use my phone to scan it and then play around with it. Let me see if I could come up with any creative passwords myself. That will be difficult. What I'm going to do is I'll start off with maybe some basic ones, maybe password 1-2, and then see how that plays out. But I'd like everyone to participate and share their feedback on the chat. Again, we're not storing these passwords, so just in case you want to test your actual passwords to see, you can. The passwords are being stored. But yeah, let's engage. Perfect. Okay, from Olavide, perfect, very nice. It doesn't belong in any database. That is what we want to hear. Yes, your password does not appear in any databases of leaked passwords. Perfect. Anyone else? Don't feel shy if you put in a password that's easy to to break. Feel free to share. Very nice. So I tried one. It told me the password appeared 2,784 times in a database of leaked passwords. So I will not be doing that. Maybe get a bit more creative and try a couple more. Very nice. Very nice. Oh, okay. Jane, very interesting password you have right there. Let me tweak it a bit. Yeah, I think this is more of the message we're trying to pass. Can can anyone on the chat tell me the message that is being passed on the password from Jane? Please, I think for this one we can have one person on mute to say it. I need to hear it from someone. Please, it will be great. Just for my mental health, please. Let's unmute so I can hear it. Let me check. Very nice, interesting. So for those that have found have their passwords like appearing in leaks, let's not use those passwords. Don't be Gaju's videos. Very correct. That's just very nice. A very nice password, very creative password, to be honest. I don't think that's getting guessed anywhere. Okay, very nice. All right, thank you all so much for that active participation. So we have this tool now. Let us make use of this tool when deciding our passwords. So, how do we want to store passwords safely? Importantly, let us not write them down on a piece of paper. Let's not stay logged in on other people's devices, right? Let's not keep them in like note-taking apps. Let's beware of the websites and applications where we're using our passwords, as we've seen with the Have I Been Pwned. We can only try, right? There could be cases out of our control. We understand. What is important is those things within our control, let us act on them. So let's be really conscious of the websites and applications where these passwords are being used. Let's remove passwords from search engines and autocomplete suggestions, right? This is a problem. Let's change our passwords at least once every 6 months. Let's not share our passwords with anyone. You'd find that in a lot of organizations, there's this freedom, and I don't know why. It's like, oh, yeah, don't worry, I trust my colleague enough, so I'm just going to give him my password. And this could be something that could be used to authorize transactions and things like that. Like when it all comes down to it, Not to like instill fear or anything in anyone, but when it all boils down to it, if something happens and your user account was used, you can't really defend it that you gave someone your password. You did it. So let's not do that. Let's not give anyone our password. And then as much as possible, we can leverage on a password manager as well. So these password managers would really help us in these cases. So let's leverage on password managers. Okay, around online privacy, let's open our social media accounts and explore the main information around your profile. So maybe scroll down the latest 10, 20 posts. What information about you can actually be found? I'm talking about things around like home address, date of birth, your birthday, um, what kind of photos do you have? Do your photos expose anything like where you work? Things like that could be interesting. So maybe we could do that as a simple task, right? Maybe we just want to see, and you'll be shocked what you can find in terms of the actual information. There's a whole lot of information that we unknowingly disclose on social media, and if we use like a scrutinous eye to look at these uh like posts, we can actually find that we may have been disclosing a whole lot. You find things like the kind of cars that we drive. We see things like when last we even bought fuel in certain cases, right? Some people post that much. And it's really interesting because now someone can start to build something more tailored for you just based off of that, even from a phishing side. Say, you know what? This is so place where you got fuel from. You got fuel from the last time. We found this about you. Da, 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 da. And it could be like something really crafty, and could seem real because of how targeted it is. It seems real, but it's all based off of the information that you've put out there. So, our number one rule is let us not disclose too much about ourselves on the internet. Consider what we're sharing with and with which people we're sharing it with. Attackers may use any of this information that they can to their advantage. Anything to make whatever they're pushing out to you seem a bit more legit. Um, they could do that. For example, someone could make it an interesting post, such as, I've been waiting for this guy to send me this file for the past 3 days. I've been waiting for my colleague to send me this file for the past 3 days, and he hasn't sent it. Really interesting. If someone could start to look a bit closer into that message, maybe they could even find out off of previous posts who this colleague is. And then they could craft something that will seem like it's coming from the colleague and it's malicious. And because you've been expecting this file, as you've stated on your social media page for everyone to see, you will download this file and run it thinking this is legitimately coming from your colleague. So let us adhere to this number one or basic rule, right? Don't disclose too much about yourself on the internet. So privacy on the internet, the right to keep your personal information private. So prevent unauthorized access to your data, be sure to manage the privacy settings properly. You'd find that these social media platforms have privacy settings that you could work with, tweak as you would like. Let's also not give out our email addresses or phone numbers to just about everyone. Right? It's not the kind of thing that we want to be giving everyone. Let's Before sharing any kind of information, let us think of how it can be used against us. Let's go into the mind of the attacker for a bit and let's become more cyber conscious and say, if I'm giving you this information, how can I be exposed here? Let's not, as much as possible, try to not disclose geolocation in posts. No one needs to know where we are. No one needs to really know where we've been. If someone were to be a bit more focused, they could leverage on that information for really interesting tricks. And then let's remove like the metadata from photo files. These things could hold things like where the picture was taken, like the location. And with the right tools, someone could actually gain access to it and, for example, even know your home address. just off of the metadata from your photos, or at least where you stay. And maybe we don't want that. So let us make sure our accounts are more secure by, again, scanning this barcode. It takes you to privacy.kaspersky.com. You choose the gadgets that you want to protect, and then just follow the instructions. This is, again, an interesting way for us to help you improve the general privacy settings for your gadgets, for your social media sites. This is something that you can do in your spare time. So, but let's scan the barcode so we have access to this link. Perfect. All right. Yes. So we will get the training material across after the session so that everyone can see. Okay. Very nice. Back to our slides. So let's have that scanned. Now into phishing and scam. So what is spam and what dangers will it be posing actually? One of the means to spread malware. This is how, like, spam can act as one of the means to spread malware. Can be used to gain unauthorized access to sensitive data. So this would be things around passwords, bank card details, and much more. It could also be an avenue of scamming people out of their funds, right? So unwanted and unsolicited correspondence, more often than not, contains fraud or scam. So what are some signs of fraud or scams? Let's carefully look through the message or email to see if there's something dubious about it. Again, it's important for us to note that it may not always include grammatical errors. It may not always include it. So maybe we don't want to have one way of searching. We don't want to have just one, say we're focusing on only looking for grammatical errors. And so when we don't see grammatical errors, it must be fine. Let's not do that, right? So we want to look for emotional pressure or intense language. We want to look for the tone of the voice. Does it seem off? Does it seem weird? Could it even be something in distress? We just want to be very careful here. So let's look out for that. Then the grammatical errors, typos, misused symbols, or even certain symbols like exclamation marks trying to push the message of urgency. So let's be careful there. And then the sender's name or the email address of the sender is looking really suspicious. So these are like really interesting things for us to consider when approaching like signs of fraud or scams. So then down to phishing. So what is phishing? It's a type of internet scam to extract or retrieve or hunt down sensitive user information. Really interesting social engineering technique. Now, the aim of phishing is to obtain your information like passwords, credit card numbers, bank accounts, these kind of things. So when you get an email, we want to check the sender, see if you know the sender, find previous email messages from them, compare with the one you've just received, just see if there's any like differences here. Review the address. So if you find like odd characters, numbers, or some meaningless combinations, XY127PW at, let's not do that. So we see those interesting combinations or any out of place thing in that address. This is a scam email, right? So don't click on any of the links. Don't do anything. don't click on anything, right? Just leave it. Delete the mail. Or if part of your organization, report this mail to the IT security team immediately. And then reviewing the format, if the email contains like typos, letters of different sizes, maybe some different fonts here and there, different characters. Just don't reply. Let's move on from that. So these are things that we want to be taken into account when we receive emails. So the email phishing, right? So the email phishing emails written by the scammers, they pretend to be like bank employees or your co-workers or friends or even your boss, right? In order to get like something from you. They try to be manipulative in their behavior, maybe try to guilt trip you or force you to send it as much as quickly as possible, almost like there's a punishment for you if you don't do this. And I guess we can already start to paint another picture here of someone exposing too much information about themselves on social media. Say, for example, someone knows that you've been placed on performance improvement, right? Or you're something like that, or you're still within your probation period within a new company. They can actually maybe try to claim to be your boss and send you a message trying to let you make you feel like you not sending this document in the next 30 minutes will be counted against you in your appraisal for your performance improvement, right? They try to manipulate you, force you into like rushing into decisions. Let's always try to keep a calm head. Let's remember critical thinking. Let's not rush anything, take our time, understand what exactly we've just received, who sent it, these kind of things. So the point of these scams is to get people to hurry. They don't want you to use critical thinking. They don't even want you to think at all. This way, they're more likely to fall for the scams. So the purpose of the urgency, the manipulations, is to create a sense of chaos within the victims, like confuse them, disorient them, and then force them to make like rash decisions. That's just the way it is. So as much as possible, keep a calm head, remember critical thinking always. So the rule is simple. Let's take a step back before using any links in emails or messages. These links can contain malicious scripts or links to fraudulent websites. The same would go for applications as well. So let's always take a step back. Remember, you receive something, it seems to be asking you to do something urgently. It seems to be trying to make you disclose confidential information, or maybe download a document or click on a link, or it's looking too good to be true, right? So HR hasn't done any salary reviews in the last 1, 2, 3, 5 years even. Why do we think they want to do it now? It's a bit too good to be true. Let's not rush into it because we want the salary review, right? So let's take a step back and remember critical thinking. And then if you see anything like that looks suspicious, let's act on it. Delete the mails or send forward to your InfoSec team. Allow the guys carry out some more investigation on that side. So yeah, let's just be as conscious as possible in terms of cybersecurity. So now this brings me to the really special bit of today. The gift I promised everyone at the end of our engagement, and the gift is we have a 40% discount promo on the Kaspersky Small Office Security. With the promo code SMEDAN40, you gain access to that. So let us scan the barcode. You get access to the Kaspersky Small Office Security at a 40% discount. They give you some time to scan the barcode. Let me check the chat quickly. All right. I think we've had enough time to scan, right? I hope. Okay. To the next slide. So these are some useful links. Just things around the privacy checker, the Kaspersky password manager, Kaspersky Daily. Feel free to scan these links as well. It could be really interesting for our day-to-day activities. And yeah, we would be happy to take questions at this point. Do you have any questions? Do you have anything you'd like to discuss? Please feel free to drop them on the chat. Let's have a conversation. All right, guys on the chat, do we have our facilitator? Do you want to check if there's maybe from the live stream, from anywhere, is there any questions that would like they would we can take? Let's have a conversation. Okay, so let's scroll up. Oh, okay, I see some questions coming in. Okay, very nice. Any clues in regards to solving DDoS attacks? I guess we can look at it from maybe a couple of ways, right? There can be a number of ways, but let's first off focus on the technology side. And from the technology side, we say like set DDoS appliances, right? There's DDoS appliances that can be purchased and used to prevent these kind of attacks. And we could leverage on things like even a WAF, like some web application firewall, or even just straight up monitoring, right? Say, for example, you have some log management system, like you have a SIM. You can have like rate limits on that SIM, and then when we start to see spikes from like certain event sources or log sources, this could be like a pointer for us towards like a potential DDoS attack. There's a whole number of ways, right? So we can leverage on those technologies, or better still, security in depth, right? Let's have layers. So we have the DDoS appliance, we have our web application firewalls, we have our SIM solution collecting telemetry from our log sources, and then we start to see if there's any spikes, things like that. So these are things that we can stack to combat DDoS. Josephine, how do we scan the barcode? You can use your phone camera, just face it to the barcode for some time, and then you should see an interesting link. If that doesn't work, you might need to download a barcode scanner onto your phone. But again, let's remember some of the things we looked at today when downloading that scanner. Let us ensure the legitimacy of that application before you download, so we don't end up exposing ourselves. Making payments in USD is really an issue. Do you have any other means of accepting payments in NGN? Yes, you can reach out to my colleague on the call. We have my colleague on the call, Jane. Jane can actually help you work on the pricing, see how we can send you like set pricing through channels, and then obviously factor in the discounts as well. So just feel free to reach out to Jane. Jane, do you want to say something on the chat just so they know you're here, or know how to reach you, so that they can get this, because we completely understand the challenge making payments in USD from here. Some of the Nigerian cards don't work. There's a few that work, one or two that work. But in the cases where you can't make those payments, please feel free. Jane, maybe you'll be able to assist here as well. If you find yourself in one of the issues, what is the immediate action to take? Uh, what issue exactly, if I may ask? Because if you're talking about like in a case where you've uh, say already submitted your password onto like a platform that is very really suspicious, right? For example, the immediate thing, change that password. Okay, change it across if it's a password that has been reused on multiple social media platforms or multiple like other pages. Let us swiftly change those passwords just to ensure that the guys can't reuse the passwords on other platforms. So I guess at this point it becomes a thing of speed. We want to once we've made that mistake, we've realized our mistake, let's act immediately. In certain cases, if it's something that happens at the organizational level, not maybe like personal level, let us swiftly report it to the InfoSec team so that they can then carry out the set out incident response processes. You've downloaded a malicious file, they can do things like isolating the host immediately, right? This would be to prevent any lateral movement, any exfiltration of data in terms of communication to a C2 server. They can do that. So it's important that they are informed immediately. There's also this thing where people make mistakes and they're scared, right? If something happens in security, if you've clicked something, I want us to remember that even the likes of Instagram and the likes where we check the have I been pwned have faced breaches as well. So let us report it, right? The earlier we report it, the earlier we can start the investigation process, the better. So let's reach out to our InfoSec teams if you feel like there's been any compromise at any level. Report as quickly as possible so that they can carry out the response process. If something is looking suspicious and you haven't clicked on it yet, again, report so that the guys can look at it as quickly as possible. And the goal here is this: you might not be the only one that has received that mail, for example. And because you were able to detect it doesn't mean the others were able to detect it. Someone else might click on it. So the earlier those guys, the security teams know, the better they can respond. So there's that. So those are the kind of like actions that we can take immediately just to ensure that we aren't like further compromised. How is Kaspersky leveraging on AI to combat cybercrime? So we've been leveraging on machine learning modules as a subset of AI for over 20 years now. One thing you find within our offerings is we're providing a bunch of things, right? Like the essential protection around on-access scanning, on-demand scanning, file threat protection, network threat protection, those guys. We're also providing things around like attack surface reduction, application control, device control, things like that. But then we're also having the more advanced technologies, things like behavior detection modules, the remediation engine, and exploit prevention module. These guys are then leveraging on these machine learning modules that we spoke about. So yeah, this is something that we've been leveraging on for over 20 years, and we're not stopping actually. We do have a whole team dedicated to research work around AI and seeing how we can use this to better improve our offerings. Download QR code scanner. Please stay anywhere I can retrieve my email account if after being hacked by hackers. It's not really as straightforward as that. It's not impossible, but it's not always possible, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm talking about retrieving your emails. If you have maybe a recovery mail, you can, but you have to act fast because if they've made certain changes to the account already, it's really difficult. Like you almost have to start to reach out to your mail provider and starting to like explain a whole lot, having some back and forth with the support guys, seeing if they could do anything to help you retrieve those mails internally. It's not really like impossible. It's just like a rather complicated process, but technically you can. It's just a really long process. So the advice is to not find ourselves in those situations. You could maybe use your recovery mails, your phone numbers. If you have two-factor authentication set up, maybe you could use that as well. But I guess, again, point out to have two-factor authentication enabled where possible, right? So we don't run into this kind of situations. What tool did you make your slides with? PowerPoint. PowerPoint. Can you post the barcode again? Yes. Just hold on. This is the one for the promo code. How do you distinguish nation state attacks from criminal or opportunistic malware? I guess this is an interesting question, but I'm hoping the question is how Kaspersky is able to distinguish, right? If that's the question, at the beginning of the session, we had like a conversation around Kaspersky's expertise, and we did say something around having researchers globally, and this is the Kaspersky Global Research and Analysis Team. Now, we provide threat intelligence to a number of organizations. And as you've seen with our partnership with or collaboration with the likes of Interpol, Paris, Call, Afripol, and the likes, we are able to share this intelligence. But it's not just to like governmental entities, right? We can also work with private entities and provide so-called threat intelligence reporting. This would be reports covering like APTs, crimeware, industrial control system related threats, full like descriptions of the kind of or tags of the kind of industries, or is this governmental, those kind of things. Is this crimeware related, maybe focusing on them ATMs, POSs, those kind of things. We can see that, and I think that's like just leveraging on our researchers. They're able to provide all of that intelligence alongside tags for us to understand what exactly we're dealing with. So these tags would help us generally with context on these threats that are being reported on. Okay, is your HQ still based out of Moscow? If yes, are sanctions affecting your business activities? Well, our HQ is still in Moscow, but the sanctions are affecting our business activities, really. I think this is one of the things I always try to push at the beginning of the conversation, where I did mention that we've been around for 27 years, right? And if we ask everyone in this room their earliest recollection of Kaspersky, they probably go a number of years back. And this does help us to pass the message of longevity. This isn't going like these things like geopolitical things and things like that. This is not the first time, right? It's not like they've never happened in the past to anybody, right? But you find that we've been here for a number of years and we're going nowhere. If anything, we're doing even better, providing more ways for our customers to even have better trust in our offering. We're coming out there, putting all of our, having these sessions, making ourselves even more public. Like, we're putting ourselves out there. We're not going into hiding. We're not scared of anything. Our business operations are still up and running. If anything, we're even having some more expansion even. So it's not affecting our business activities in any way. So there's nothing for you to be concerned with here. From the operational security side, what is your go-to Linux distro, Arc or Kali? I'll say Kali. Let's say Kali. What's the alternative for hybrid analysis? Could you explain a bit more around your question? What's the alternative for hybrid analysis? Olamide. I think at this point, maybe you could even unmute if you can. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I get the question.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. There is not everybody that know how to use hybrid analysis. For example, now, let's assume a small organization with a little IT infrastructure, and they still want to stay up to date on detecting malware, phishing, all these basic things. So if they don't use hybrid analysis, what's the alternative they can use that others can also know how to use it? It won't be as if it's the only IT person or the security person that can use it. What any of the department can just make use of that will make it easier for everybody to learn how to use it, so that when they see traces of phishing or malware, they can run it on their own without having to call on the security team. I'm just asking for independence sake in the organization.
Yeah, perfect. There are ways to achieve this. We might just go a little bit more technical here, but let's try. Let's try to work on that. Say you have a sandbox, a research sandbox on premise. Generally, the guys that would have access to the sandbox would be the security teams, maybe our malware researchers and guys like that, right? But if we're able to leverage on APIs for file submission, we can actually technically create a small portal where users can actually submit links or submit objects. And then these objects are then forwarded to the sandbox and then they receive a verdict. This way, they don't have to, or we don't have to overload the customer or overload the security team with requests of validating, is this thing a phishing link, is this guy malicious, things like that, right? They can leverage on this sandbox. This is like an example, right? The APIs of the sandbox to run this file submission or object submissions, and then they get the verdict and they're able to work from there. We are trying to not go too technical, but that can be a way to navigate this particular challenge that you're speaking about. How about the large enterprise customers based in North America? No effect from sanctions. Well, again, we would want to look at it from like a net perspective, right? Say there's the customer base in North America, understandable. But then the other regions are then also witnessing expansion. So ultimately, it balances out and even does even better, actually. Because I think when you think about it from like technically, you can pool resources here and then use the resources in other sites. And if you use those resources in other places, you can allow those places flourish even more. So from like the business side, business growth, we are still even investing more in research and development and doing more things and expanding more. So that's what I mean by we aren't like overly affected there. Obviously, no one wants to lose any customer base, but again, these things happen, and it's more about how you respond to them and ensuring that the business continues, right? So it's this business continuity. What is the plan? And there are plans in place. So the business as a whole, in terms of the growth, is not being affected here. From previous years, installing Kaspersky tends to slow down the PC. Has anything changed with that regard? The truth here is we don't slow down the PC, right? Sometimes it's configuration errors. I think when we're speaking earlier, we saw like the human error. And one of the biggest challenges that I've seen is users running unaccessed scans and on-demand scans, or rather mixing them up. So unaccessed scanning is around interactions with the file system. So if you are trying to open a file, execute a file, modify a file, save, we have the modules that will generally scan. The problem is sometimes people mix this up with on-demand scan, and the on-demand scan is the malware scan tasks, so scanning the whole system for malware. And what we've seen is there's cases where people try to start scanning the systems like every hour. They set like a schedule that, yeah, let's just keep scanning the systems. It doesn't work like that, right? Because those are rather resource intensive tasks. Generally, you want to do a malware scan task maybe once a week. And due to this like small knowledge gap, we see people like constantly running these scan tasks, and these scan tasks will start to like have impact on the system performance. But by default, with everything configured well, it's smooth running on the systems. And does the organization do cyber insurance? No, not necessarily. No. Would you qualify a firm like Sophos as a competitor?
I am.
Okay.
Okay. I'm so sure the questions will keep coming in and in
Yeah.
and in and on. So let me come in right here, right now, and let's see how we can start thinking of winding up and making these discussions more fruitful for us. Thank you so much, Mr. Benjamin. We really appreciate.
Very much.
I learned so much. And just like I said earlier on, if we are to pay, we know this is actually a very expensive capacity building that we just got on a platter of gold. I learned so much about the phishing, ransomware, and a host of, and of course, the way what we took for granted, we're being told, is actually exposing ourselves online. The issues about our password, and thank you so much for that practical scenarios where we go and find out how exposed we were. I saw mine and I was shocked to think that we thought we know it all. It really brought the lessons out. To put the icing on the cake, we're also getting a 40% discount from Kaspersky if we quickly take advantage. And I will tell you, as a matter of fact, Kaspersky has been around for quite a while, and some of the things he's saying are things that some of us know we've had for some time. So let's take advantage of that promo code and see how every one of us can actually leverage on the opportunity to protect ourselves online and protect our documents and protect, of course, our personality online. We really do appreciate the sessions, and we will still allow people to please make emphasis on cyber security. Your questions on protecting yourself online, what we need to do, what additional measures apart from the one already mentioned by Mr. Benjamin, do we need to take? And I am surprised nobody has tried to ask for his email address and contacts for personal consultancy where the need arises. So the lines will be open right now. Please, with a show of hand, we'll say anybody that wants to ask any specific question, just raise your hand. And if you think you would like it better, you can send the questions via chat. Then ensure your questions are straightforward and very brief, so that we can allow our facilitator to focus more on saving the world through cybersecurity. Yes. Anybody with a question, apart from the ones we've asked, and the questions around cybersecurity and for small businesses? Okay. I guess, yes, give us your email or what. I think I threw that out. I'm hoping you're going to oblige us with okay. Please share all your inquiries to Jane. Okay. Yes, thank you so much. We've gotten an email that we can continue this discussion, because I'm sure 4 hours is not going to be sufficient with some of the things he has actually exposed us to. And largely, what I would say I'm taking home right now is the need for us to all go back, and if the slides are shared, to see the possibility of protecting ourselves online. The exposure is real, and people are actually there fishing and trying to see what they can do to take over our presence. What is the difference between endpoint security and firewalls? There you go. That's I will crave your indulgence to reserve that for the advanced class. We are going to have an advanced master class where we'll go into the technical issues and discuss more of these things. Any questions on Kaspersky? Any questions on what you need to do about your email, malware, phishing, office policy on protecting identity, office policy on sending emails, official and informal? Any questions around that before we allow our facilitator to go? Any, just any. The microphones have been unmuted for everyone to be able to ask questions if you have any right now. So that's, and I'm not seeing any hands up. Yes, I'm sure Mr. Benjamin has done justice to it, and we're still wowed by some of the revelations we got during this session. Okay, can I ask mine? Because I wanted to save mine for the last.
Yes,
I am at loss. When you were talking about making your password to be too easy, then you also said hard to remember passwords, which is safer right now, because yes, if I make it easy, I will be able to remember. If I make it hard to remember, you also said it's not going to be too good, because that means I will have to save it elsewhere. What do you advise?
So there has to be the balance, right? Never easy to remember. Let's not do, like, never easy to like break, right? Let's not do that. That is what we want to avoid. But if the password is complicated, if it's hard to remember, let us remember that there's things like password managers, and you'd find that on one of the slides, the second to the last slide, I did put up a link with 3 QR codes, and this was even a pointer to, for example, Kaspersky's password manager. There's a way to leverage on password managers to help us store these complicated passwords. It's much better that way, right? We have difficult passwords to remember, but they're stored somewhere. These password managers, and then we can use them every time we need them. But let's not make the passwords easy. That's the one we don't want to do. If you don't have a password manager, try to find the middle ground. Or don't make it too complicated, because if you forget the password, what it will lead to is you most likely have to do forgot password, and because you don't want to forget the password again, you make it too easy, or you end up having like sticky notes holding the passwords, and then you keep them somewhere for public viewing, like the image we saw, and we also don't want to do that. So we can either leverage on password managers and use complicated passwords, or have like a middle ground. We have that tester, that page now, that we use to test like the complexity of the password. Is it something found in any of the password databases, things like that. So you can always test those passwords there. Is it complicated enough to not be hacked, but I guess clear enough for me to remember? Right, we can do that. Just don't make it too easy. Let's not have password 12 at password $12 p at sswrd, things like that. Let's not do that. But let's just find that middle ground, and we have that tool to help us test to confirm that this password is good to go. It's not found in any databases of passwords or things like that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. One other one from my side. If an organization wants to actually procure the Kaspersky software, that means in bulk, is there room for negotiation? Because I try to compute that dollar into naira, and I got wowed that, okay, what if an organization wants to procure it? That means in bulk for their staff. What's the procedure and what's the process? Then the issue of slowing down, you've actually answered to that effect. But are there other additional benefits, say from this capacity we just got now, that's using the Kaspersky as a cybersecurity software over any other thing that we've been doing, except especially the free ones we've been downloading online. We are completely free, but for what you said now, we know we're also exposing ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. So, for on the grounds of negotiation, we have the Channels Territory Manager and Enterprise Account Manager on the call for Kaspersky within West Africa. So, Jane provided her contact information on the chat. Always happy to have these conversations around pricing, running some more bulk purchases. We can definitely do that. Discuss pricing, things like that. We're open to those negotiations. And then there is the bit of like how Kaspersky is also able to help, right? It's always like case by case basis, like vendor A versus vendor B. The differences will differ from vendor A versus vendor C, for example. But what we can definitely push out is the added value that comes with the offering of Kaspersky. First off, you're getting a vendor that has been in the space for 27 plus years. So we're already looking at the quality of cybersecurity experience. It's massive, right? That is one side. We're also then looking at the functionalities that we're getting, the tests that we've participated in. So one thing that you find around Kaspersky is we are the most tested and most awarded vendor out there. We participate in a lot of independent reviews from the likes of AV Test, AV Comparatives, and these guys, have scored us as the highest. So, for example, in 2024, we participated in 95 independent reviews, and we came first place in 91 of those reviews against all of the vendors. So you're getting like the absolute best, and we came in the top three. About 97% of the tests were in the top three. So you're getting world best-in-class technologies, ability to not just provide detection capabilities, but things around even attack surface reduction. So you can control the URLs that users are accessing. You can control the applications that are being started within the organization. You could even do like a device control where you limit the use of removable drives. And even say, for example, we spoke about that rubber ducky attack. We have an interesting way to protect against those kind of things as well within our offerings. So there's a whole lot that you're getting alongside the endpoint protection functionalities that you'll be expecting on the EPP side. But yes, we're doing a lot more than that. So you're getting all of that in one, the expertise and the technologies from Kaspersky.
Wow, thank you so very much. I'm checking out if there are hands up or any questions in the chat room. None whatsoever. The presentation is available on YouTube. Yeah, we thank the host and also other things. Okay. In the absence of any other thing, can we start thinking of wrapping up this? Can you please post the barcode again so that for the promo code,
yes,
so that
please.
everybody quickly take a screenshot, or if possible, share it on your pages, share it on your social media handles, because I know promos do not last forever. Before it goes off, let everyone take advantage of this Kaspersky small office security, and let's see what can be done. I hope the ICT unit in Sweden is also taking notes on the possibility of getting as many as possible on a renegotiated term, I believe. I want to appreciate Mr. Benjamin Okoli and his team. Okay, Mazu Mohammed Barao. How can we get the slides?
Yeah, we'll get the slides across, export in PDF and send the PDFs to Smedan, and then Smedan can push it out from there.
All right, we really appreciate. So we're getting the knowledge. We're also getting resource in terms of hard facts on checking out some of our things. We appreciate you, Mr. Benjamin Okoli. He is a pre-sales manager at Kaspersky, and he has been speaking to us about cybersecurity for small businesses. He has emphatically informed us that it is necessary to protect our business, not just our business, ourselves online from cyberware, and some of the measures we need to do to be able to be safer online has been enumerated by Mr. Benjamin, and we've learned so much with respect to checking how secure our passwords are and a host of other things. We really appreciate you for taking your time out to share this knowledge with our small business owners and some of the managers in Sweden. And we do hope that we'll be able to call you at any time when the need arises for you to please share some of this knowledge again on another level. Thank you so much.
Thank
Everybody,
you very much.
we had at one time we had over 50 participants online. I'm sure some of them were waiting to ask questions at the end of the session, but you can still keep the conversation going in, and any of the questions you have, forward it to our host. We'll make sure that it gets to Mr. Benjamin Okoli, and some of those things will be responded to you in due course. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening in, and thank you to our facilitator. We can't, by wave of hand, let's show our appreciation. Just wave to let you know that we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Have a great day ahead.